What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Scales of Music podcast. It is I, Michael Alvis, joined by the one and only my man Zach Tinsley. Zach, how you been, man?
I've been good. It's funny you mentioned before we started recording here that you've not seen me without a beard, and it just reminded me how long it actually has been since we've recorded because I shaved a couple days after our last recording with the great Ken Howen. And yeah, so it's been a while, but I'm excited. I know we've talked for a couple weeks about having an episode here, and so I'm just excited to be back recording and talking about all things that are, good.
Yeah.
If that's what we're talking about here.
Anything it's all good, where it's pretty much what we're doing is we got our main talks, but we're going to pretty much just cover anything of just general conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little glad that, we weren't recording at the time where, like, literally everyone had to give their opinion on Will Smith and the slap. I mean, my man's wife got disrespected. I'd smack him too.
Man, man, should have done it at the after party with, like, call it the aftershock. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of like, I think something tells me Jada's part of the problem.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Or she is the problem.
Yeah. I think that's fairly clear with all the evidence that we have here recently. That man is trapped. And I don't know.
Is this really why Tupac is dead?
Yeah. I almost wonder, like, what does she have on him? I almost wonder if there's, like, some type of weird, like, Scientology thing that she knows about that, like, he doesn't want to like expose. There's a part of me that feels like that's what it has to be, right? So have you ever seen the documentary Going Clear?
No.
Okay, so first of all, you should watch it if you like culty, religious stuff. It's just about Scientology, right? So it came out a little. Yeah, it came out a little bit before Leah Remini had her series that was sort of like uncovering people who left. And it's really just all about the origins of L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige. And a huge portion of the movie is about Tom Cruise and sort of like his role as the, ultimate celebrity being of this religion, right? And obviously Tom Cruise and Will Smith are extremely close. Will's oldest son from his
Trey.
Yeah, I don't think he was married to her though, right? Was he?
Is that Cherie's wife? Is Cherie's the son?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they were married.
His child not with Jada.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that is Tom Cruise's godson. So anyways, like Will Smith, I don't know if he is anymore, but there's a part of me that wonders if he is. Like, it was real big into Scientology along with Tom Cruise at the time. So in this movie, it just talks about how, and obviously if you've seen the Leah Remini series, it's all about how, like, if you get out, they will ruin your life. And there's a huge part of me that thinks that has something to do with this, that he's so deep or got so deep into the Scientology that there are things that the religion and the money that he's put into and the stuff that she knows, maybe she's still a part of it, I don't know. But everybody talks about the Illuminati, and the Illuminati is kind of garbage, It's sort of like people think that Freemasons sacrifice babies and stuff. But Scientology is real. Like, the cult of Scientology is 100% real. Like, they believe the more money that you give is like the higher up in whatever celestial heaven that they believe in, right? And they do really weird culty stuff. And so, I don't know, man. It's just my theory that she's got something on him through Scientology that they cannot talk about, right? And thus, like, they are trapped together, but she holds it. Because, I mean, he's so much more famous than her. So she needs him. She absolutely needs him, right?
Right.
He doesn't need her. So what, you know what I mean? Like, what is it that she has on a guy who is, I mean, outside of Denzel, and maybe more than Denzel, maybe the most popular black actor ever. Box office wise, maybe like Samuel L. Jackson, I know, has made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I mean, this is like
He's-
a powerful guy, right?
Yeah. He's over Sidney Poitier, I can tell you that. And Sidney's
if
an
he's
icon.
not number one, he's in the top 3 with Denzel and Sam Jackson. It's
hands down.
It's those 3 guys, right? So, so I'm just saying, I feel like it has to be that. It has to be some type of like Scientology secret that has him specifically trapped, or his life will literally be ruined forever. It's my theory, and I feel like it's one of those times where I feel like I'm right. You know?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think something's up for sure. Will, you got this. I don't know what's going on. I've heard rumors that he's checked in somewhere, but it's really weird that Jada goes right back out 2 days after.
She's got the boyfriend and all that. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. There's some weird culty
Open
thing.
don't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what I've heard of some.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna get into that. It's just the whole slap thing is so totally over debated, and I mean, there's this
Oh
whole,
my God,
you
it
know,
blew up.
it is. It's kind of dumb, and I'll be honest, man. Like I I didn't watch the Oscars. I'm not gonna watch the Oscars. I don't watch any of those movies. When was the last time the Oscars was good? You know what I mean? Like,
Ricky Gervais.
But that was the Golden Globes, dude.
Oh,
that's
God.
how much
See?
you don't know about the Oscars, that you just referenced the Golden Globes. Wasn't even the Oscars.
Man.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. No one cares. You know, here's the other thing. How about this? The Grammys was on. I had no idea. I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh, the Grammys happened? I mean, it's gotten to the point where these award shows and stuff, people just don't care. I mean, I've never really cared that much about the Grammys because I've always thought the Grammys were like, it's funny. I've always thought the Grammys were the opposite of the Oscars, right? So the Oscars always likes to award, you know, weird, obscure, didn't make a lot of money, you know, like these are our movies. Like, you know, we don't give Best Picture to The Dark Knight. That wasn't, you know, that's not an art house, you know. But then the Grammys have always
Spider-Man.
Right, yeah. But the Grammys have always been like, oh, you made the most money, like, you know, you're the best album, which was, you know, weird. Sometimes they gave it to Arcade Fire when they deserve it, kind of thing. But you know what I mean? The Grammys have always been the opposite. It's always been what's popular and that's what wins. And so it's just funny how, I don't know. I've never cared about the Grammys whatsoever. And it was just fun. But it was even funnier to me waking up, you know, seeing that. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I probably wouldn't have even known the Oscars was on if it wasn't for the Will Smith thing.
I was like, I was focused doing something, and like I used to watch award shows all the time. Like that's honestly probably one of the only reasons why I mean, growing up I had cable, obviously, but it's only the reason why I watched TV, that or Viva La Bam at the time, or Dragon Ball Z. But nowadays, I agree. It's like they're not interesting anymore. Like it's just like you already know, like you said, who's going to get it. 9 times out of 10, and no offense, but most of the choreography is just not choice. And most of the time you're watching it with family, so that does put ratings down. I mean, do whatever you want to do. Dancing, it's an art. It's a form of expression, which is an art. But just keep other things in mind. But it's just like, and it's everybody watches it, and with social media, everybody's got a way to come back on it, and it's just kind of ruined it for me.
Right.
It's like I can't do it anymore. But yeah, they've lost their luster, honestly.
I mean, the thing about the Grammys that I've always found weird is like when bands like Rage Against the Machine or Baby Rexha or whatever, they win like best new artist, but it's, you know, they have 4 albums. I never understand when they give those awards out where they say, I don't know, best new artist is somebody who's been around for 10 years. It's always odd to me. So,
it's like, do they just have to start popping off on the scene? And it's like, is that what that rule is?
I mean, I guess, but it is funny. I really was thinking about how the only reason why the Oscars were even relevant is because of that stupid slap. Because the Grammys didn't have something like that, so no one cares. And it almost makes
Mm-hmm.
me, I almost wonder why that is. Is it entirely because of we have now entered the the true TikTok era of the internet, whereas anything that is glorified as a single night does not matter at all because everything is constantly happening today. That there is no such thing as a special, you know what I mean? Maybe that's
Yeah.
not the way to think about it, but I'm almost wondering why it is that it's like all at the same time, all this stuff just doesn't matter anymore.
I just think it's where everybody's head's at, but I agree. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And you would
Oh.
think it would be the
Oh my God, he slapped the
yeah, but you would think it would be the
and then it
you
blows
think
up.
it'd be the opposite because you think about it, even 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, let's say 2010.
Uh-huh.
If you wanted to watch a movie that was going to win Best Picture, you had to go to the movie theater, or you had to do something to go find that, right? It was kind of an
Redbox.
event, like Family Video. You know what I mean?
R.I.P.
Or the Grammys, right? So you had to LimeWire that stuff, and not be afraid to do it like me. I never wanted to do it. I was always, weirded out by it. You had to go get the
For sure.
music. I almost wonder if it really is just to the point where everything is so much at our disposal now that n- things are talked to death about. If a movie comes out, we just talk it to death about how great or bad it is at the moment, and then 4 or 5 months later, when it's winning awards, we're all like, whatever, I hated that anyway, you know, because we've all seen it now. It isn't like, oh, the Oscars, like here's the nominations, I got to go see these movies. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. And honestly, I think a lot of it is people's choice in like movies and stuff have changed. And music has changed just because with the time, I mean, I think we're seeing kind of a remake of the 20s and 30s in terms of like how quickly music style and choice and movie style change and stuff like that. I mean, reckon we didn't have speakeasies and hidden bars. We don't have to worry about that. But
I kind of think it's because we ran out of ideas.
yes. Yeah. It's like for instance, what Ed Sheeran just went through. Did you hear about that lawsuit he
No.
won? So he won a lawsuit in regards to maybe it was Bad Habits, I'm not for sure, but a song he did. No, it was one of his earlier songs in his career. Some artist got on him and it was like $1 billion lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
that he copied it.
Huh.
And
Is this the same thing as like the Sam Smith, Tom Petty garbage?
Kinda, yeah. Uh-huh. So he had that issue and he said at the end of it a good point. I'm paraphrasing this. Music's been around for hundreds of years. There's no possible way that you're not going to hear a chord progression or a melody or a piece of a melody that's not been used. Unless you're a virtuoso like MJ and Prince who can come up with minor and modal chords and somehow make them sound good in their head and it works, or a Mozart. Right. And luckily he won that, and it's just like, I mean, we can make up our minds in terms of stuff, but when it comes to repetition, and I think just with everybody's wanting to hear constantly, there's people that want to hear stuff that's new.
Yeah.
But people just get lost in the daily trend.
Well, so I always thought that the Sam Smith, Tom Petty thing was really stupid. Now the Robin Thicke, Marvin Gaye thing was real because they really did like sample beat that and tried to pretend like they didn't do that. And then it was like, wait a minute. This is after the dance. All right. So yeah, this is the same song. And then Pharrell eventually came out and said, yeah, like I did sample that and, tried to splice it and pretend like it didn't happen. But the Sam Smith Tom, but it's like, oh, I won't back down. Oh, I won't back down. And then it's like, I'll stay with you. But it's like a completely different. You're telling me that two songs can't be like, da-na, da-na-na, da-na-na-na. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you're talking Stay With Me,
Yeah.
right? Stay with me. And what?
So it's, and I won't
And I
back down.
won't back-
No, I won't back down.
Turn
and then it's,
around.
stay
Stir me
with
up.
me.
What?
Stay with me. And then it's like, and then, it goes, I don't know the words, but it's like, da-na, da-na-na-na-na-na. You know what I mean? Like it's, so if you splice the,
I could see if it was because he said you stand me up at the gates of hell. But if Sam would have followed that, but he didn't.
yeah, but if you speed up his song or you slow down Petty's song, it's like they're basically the same. It's da-na, da-na-na, da-na, da-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. And then Sam's is da-na, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that was probably way too long for this podcast.
Yeah, it's like they
but-
like.
I mean, sorry about that, everybody.
No.
But anyways, he lost
He's
that,
got pipes.
by the way. He lost it. Like, if you look up that song, like, Tom Petty's name is on the song. Yeah.
in
Yes.
production.
All because of
a
technicality. And I don't know, man. I mean, maybe, and I don't know the ins and outs. Maybe I didn't do enough research before this, but I cannot imagine Sam Smith was listening to Won't Back Down and was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm going to rip this off. You know what I mean?
with additional credits to Tom
yeah.
Petty and
They
Jeff
had
Lynne.
to. That's what I'm saying, man. But is that not like, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I've got to do
some
that
more
tonight.
research on it. But to me, I'm like, I feel like this is just a coincidence, and they just gave up because they didn't want to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That, like, it makes you wonder. It's like, did Nelly get the did he get the clearance for The Fix? Do you know that song?
No.
So The Fix is a "Come Get Some Girl," but it's like dum 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 dum, which is, if not identical, similar to "Sexual Healing" by Marvin Gaye.
Right.
But then in the chorus, he's like, "If you get that feeling, come fuck with me. I got what you need." So it's like that entire song was like Marvin Gaye. It's like, did he like? What's the issue? Because Logic had the same issue. It's like,
well, I mean, obviously
what is it with the sampling?
There's a difference between sampling and ripping off.
Completely copying.
I'm just specifically speaking on the Sam Smith thing. Like, I mean, I don't know anything about that. Maybe it's just one that slipped through the cracks all these years. But when I heard about that lawsuit, I was like, you're telling me that two songs just can't be kind of similar? I feel like, I don't know, man. And who was sitting in the car like, wait a minute, this is just a slowed down version of Won't Back Down. I would have never put that together if I didn't see like the YouTube video of his sped up and Tom Petty slowed. You know what I mean? I would have never put that together. So
Katy Perry had the same issue with Black Horse, I think.
That apparently there was. I think the guy just came out and said that he wrote Black Horse and gave it to her, and she basically just took it.
Wasn't it like a Christian song? It's like a church Christian artist. Like is one of his songs. I guess she took. Like the melody was so similar.
I thought
Black
their
Horse
thing was that he helped her write it, and she just was just like, nah, you're not on this. That's not the thing with Black Horse. There's a song that's close to it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, like she had to settle a lawsuit, and it was pretty high from what I saw.
I'm pretty sure she won that though. Am I right?
Yeah, it was a Dark Horse copyright appeal.
Funny who wins, right?
Yeah.
The more popular artist seems to, like, Tom Petty beats Sam Smith because no one cares about Sam Smith. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. She was ordered. Yeah, it wasn't a Christian artist. It was some. It was actually. Yeah, he was. He was a Christian rapper. She was entitled to pay. Well, supposed to pay 2.8 million to this guy because he said that she stole that
Yeah, it
song.
says a jury agreed and
And I've
awarded
listened.
him a $2.8 million payout, but a judge later overturned that verdict, saying the melody was not particularly unique or rare.
Yeah. And this is coming from BBC.com, giving credit where it's due. And I quote, allowing a copyright over this material would essentially amount to allowing an improper monopoly over two-note pitch
Agreed.
sequences or even the minor scale itself, especially in the light of the limited number of expressive choices available when it comes to an 8-note repeated musical figure. What did you just say? What was your opinion on that? It's going to
Yeah.
happen.
I think you're probably looking at the same one I'm looking at because it later goes and talks about the Sheeran thing, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
It says, Switch's real name is Sam Chokery, claims that the OI hook of Sheeran's song Shape of You has striking similarity to the chorus of his 2015 single OY. Yeah, because they're similar words.
Do you understand how O and I, when they're those two together, unless you're like cutting your breath off, it's going to transfer in, and it does sometimes sound like O-Y. Depends on how you're pronouncing it. But wow.
I mean, yeah, okay. In the same article, if you scroll down, it talks about Dua Lipa and Sam Smith. Yeah, that's funny.
Wow. Did you hear about, I guess there was something going on with Olivia Rodrigo and Paramore.
Yeah, but I think that was the kind of thing that I was saying before about Katy Perry. Wasn't it that
They wrote
it and she just like didn't credit them at all? Isn't that the case?
Yeah, apparently she was like, you didn't write it.
Yeah.
You didn't write it. I wrote it.
See, and I like
It's
to
mine.
me, I understand the criticism more of when people criticize a band like Nickelback for using. So Nickelback on, I think it's their, I can't remember what album, their third album, whatever, Silver Side or some, you would know that better than me. What's it called? Anyways, something silver.
I don't know.
That
It's the one with the horseshoe on the it's the one with the horseshoe on the cover,
don't
isn't it?
think so. I think it's the one. It's like green. Anyways, it's the one that has the song.
Anyways.
This is why you remind me of who I really am. That song, right? That's the album that has that song. on it.
Yeah.
There's like 3 songs on that album that somebody took all 3 of the songs and they played them at the same time and they were basically exactly the same, right? And so, although to me that's a little cheap, right? It's not a big deal. Like
Silver Side Up.
Silver Side Up, right? Okay, that's silver something. Yeah. So there was like a video at one point where it was like, here are 3 songs that are on this album, and I'm just gonna play them at the exact same time, and they were almost identical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even in that, it's hard for me to fault Nickelback because they are sort of a one-trick pony type band, right? You know, they make a certain sound, and when you're making that sound, I mean, I love the White Stripes. I love Jack White as much as anybody, but man, there are times where I'm like, dude, didn't you do this once? You know? Mumford and
Right.
Sons is terrible about that. There's all kinds of bands. Only point I'm making is it to me, it is absolutely ridiculous that we've gotten to the point where we're suing people over coincidence. Right?
Preach.
I mean, and maybe it's
Preach.
not coincidental. Maybe it really isn't. But to me, it's one of those things where it's probably coincidental more than it actually is ripping off. You know?
Uh-huh.
To the point where how do you award that? Because again, if you're going to award Tom Petty
Mm-hmm.
with Sam Smith, don't you have to award the Dark Horse person or the person suing Ed Sheeran, right? Like, don't you have to do that?
Yeah.
And
mean, it's only right.
I'm kind of saying the opposite. Like, to me, I think if you can prove the other 2 are trash, you should go back to Sam Smith and be like, hey, man, Yeah, so that was a coincidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like
It's
Vanilla Ice ripping off Queen.
Queen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which he
Another thing
legitimately
is,
did.
yeah. But didn't he say like the bass line was one
No.
note? Or like he said something was
He
different to where it.
Yes. No, that is right. So he said,
Come on,
oh,
Rob.
no, he said, yeah. He literally said, man, the difference between mine is theirs is dun 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 dun. And mine is dun 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 ding.
Wasn't that Conan? It wasn't on Conan or
I
Letterman. He
can't
did
remember
that.
what it was on, but I remember he said
He's
the
like,
difference is the ding.
ding.
And it's like,
It's like, bro,
come
really?
on, man.
It's like, man. It's like, come on. Ooh, another song I want you to check out. You've probably heard of the group, knowing your taste in music, Muscadine Bloodline.
No, I've not heard of that. No.
So these guys are two brothers, I believe. Looks like they're probably about in their 20s. I like their sound. They've got like a little bit of a new country, but kind of a bluegrass feel to them, and I like that. But there's a song they have, and I found it out from a wedding request for a bridal dance that I did a wedding for. And it's called Porch Swing Angel. Came out in 2019. And I started listening to it, and the melody, again, it's just like, it's very, very similar to Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing, just that bass line. It's pretty much dang near, but it's just spread
Right.
out. And then, like, and you hear cases like that, and then you hear cases like this where the song's been out for what, 3 years now, and it's not got any hits for anything else like that. But you can get a hit. Katy Perry can get a hit on something,
Right.
and it's not even close.
Well, I mean, it would be very difficult to argue that you weren't ripping off a song like 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But it's pretty easy if it's something very like melodic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. It's just weird. It's just like,
I mean, you can
like,
argue,
are we-
there's similarities to Adele's "Hello" and freaking Lionel Richie's, right?
I mean,
They're not exactly
Yeah.
the same, but you could argue that. You could easily argue that those two songs have melodic similarities.
yeah, especially on the elongated parts.
Yes.
It's definitely there. And it's just like, people are just going so quick at the whim on this when it comes to these situations, like you said. It's like, let's put an X in it and let's jump to a conclusion on something that's just a coincidence. It just happens to be a coincidence. And let's try to jump on it. Let's try to cancel it. Let's try to do whatever we can just because we immediately think, 9 times out of 10 without doing the proper amount of research,
Right.
that it's an immediate copy or that it's completely out of line. So it's just like, what line do we know when to try to go at this? Like, when should, like, because like you said, there's so many melodies out there, it's bound to happen, but music is a collective art, is it not?
Yeah, it is, and I think that the mass of people are the ones that make that determination. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's sort
like
of
Drake's.
it's sort of like bringing up the Nickelback again. I think
Mhm.
that was at the point where a lot of people, that was sort of when their haters turned, right? When
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh, all your songs are exactly the same," but obviously they still have their fans. You know what I mean? Like they still throw these huge shows and people really love them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Woo!
the people decide. You know what I mean? The people will say, "Hey,
Yeah.
man, Sam Smith's songs sound a whole lot like Tom Petty. Like, I'm tired of this trash." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can't
like-
determine that in the court of law, but you can say, "Hey, Vanilla Ice, you literally
Right.
took Under Pressure and just added a ding." You know?
Right. Do you remember Jason Derulo?
I do know how that is, yeah, but it's not.
Remember riding solo?
Yes.
Yeah, that was That was a big thing. For those of you that don't know, when Jason Derulo's Riding Solo came out in 2010, it became a huge freaking hit. And it was very similar to a song by, they were the Verve, aren't they? I believe so.
Yeah, I know who the Verve is, yes.
Yeah, and the song was called Bittersweet Symphony.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They literally had the beginning of it. It was the strings.
Right.
It's like, and then here, Jason Derulo, and it's just like, wait a minute. I love the idea of it. I still have the original version.
Right.
And I've got both of them, and I still compare them, and it's just like,
so that wasn't a sample. He just ripped it off? I mean, obviously it was a sample.
It was dang near everything was spot on. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, the only thing that was different was the drum beat.
I guess I've always just figured that was a sample.
Dude. Yeah. Well, I don't think, unless they had to have de-reverbed it, because that those strings on that original track are just, they're wet. They're wide and wet. But that one was just very short and staccato.
So anything about that?
Yeah, they had so they had to change it. They had to cease production of that song, and then they went in and redid it, and then they changed the melody of it, which it's okay,
right?
But it's like that original idea, man, was just epic.
Well,
but it would have been different if they would talk to the Verve and say, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do. Are you guys okay with this?" Which is what you're supposed to do when you're clearing samples.
Right.
It's just, I mean,
if you really, really want to be like just floored with one that I don't think maybe you know, but
try me.
So the one that I've known about that has always been like, oh my goodness, I can't even believe this is real, was the fact that Radiohead ripped Creep Off by The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies. It's exactly the same song. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a thing. Wow. It's a real thing. Yeah. So they just totally just straight ganked everything about Creep from that song. Yeah.
Wow.
A band that is heavily respected and is by far their most famous song. One that you would not even think they would do that, because they are so unique, and they brought in an era of music, right? They are the peg that is Coldplay and Muse and all these other bands that really mirror after them. I mean, I have argued, and die on the hill that Radiohead was the last band that changed music. There really hasn't been anyone since then that started after them that changed something for the better.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
They were like the last one. And so,
yeah.
But even then, like, when I found that out, that was insane. And Tom York has just admitted it. I mean, it's a real thing that happened. So it's just,
yes,
it's just crazy.
It's like, yes,
it is crazy.
I did it.
We're 30 minutes in, and I think this is a good segue to what you sort of wanted to talk about at least a little bit today. I know we weren't trying to make this episode super long, but it's been a long time. We need to get some air out.
Yeah. Right. Gotta vent a little bit. So something that's just been on my mind and on my heart as of late. A lot of it kind of stemmed off the release of MGK's past 2 albums. And it is trying to, and it's a very iffy thing, implementing the cancel culture into music, just because people don't necessarily, and I do this in air quotes, like what they hear. So over the past 2 years, this guy has dropped 2 consecutive #1 albums.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of his career, everybody really, he was labeled as a rapper, but nobody really took him as an artist until now. The guy's showing his ability lyrically. I think he's growing lyrically. He's been growing, and it showed in these past 2 albums. Mm-hmm. Outside of the Rap Devil stuff, but it's showing there's more to MGK than just bars and Cleveland Wild Boy. The guy is amazing on guitar, and he does actually play all of his stuff. He doesn't
That only
BS
makes,
any
like,
of
punk
that.
albums now. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's showing that he was influenced by another genre, but people are attacking him for it. It's like he said in the song Mainstream Sellout, leave the scene, you're ruining it. People are it's like, get rid of MGK. He doesn't need to be in the punk scene. It's like, my question is, why? Music's so wide and it's an expression of art for everybody. Why why jump to a conclusion and say, let's cancel it?
Yeah, to me,
Why?
when I think of cancel culture, and when you initially asked me about this subject a couple weeks ago, that's not where I thought you were going to take it. I don't know, man. I don't know if I would even consider. I would just say that is. So I mean, I know I've brought this up in the past. I'll bring it up again though. Is take for instance, Bob Dylan and when he came out with the country album, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
and that was people were just why what is this? But at the same time, those same people were freaking out when he went electric. I mean, he went I think it was 7 or 8 albums that were all acoustic. It was just 100% folk. He had his little thing. It was just him and his guitar, basically. Then he decided to go electric, and that thing just sold and sold like, oh, you're a sellout. Then immediately went on the total opposite end and made a country album. And I think what it is that people really love when someone does one thing and that person hits a stride. And it's time cures all ills, right? Because now,
Mm-hmm.
Highway 57, 41, I can't remember. I'm really blanking. How am I not
So you probably got it down there, don't you?
remembering the name of his most anyways, it's probably his most famous album now. The one that his fans brutalize. You sell out, you're on the guitar now. Brutalize that as a sellout for being electric. And then immediately, why would you be, country music? That's stupid. But now
Right.
that's considered great, Take now, for instance, as well. Take Sturgill Simpson. I mean, he comes out with 2 like Waylon Jennings type country albums, and then he comes out with this weird psychedelic thing, and then he comes out with one that has a ton of horns in it and a bunch of jazz, a big jazz band behind him. Then he makes this weird synthy, like Japanese anime rock music. And then his next album is literally a country western story, like a Louis L'Amour. The man just makes what he wants to make. But there are people who hate, and not saying that it's all good or whatever, but you take those two things, and these guys are just going to make what they're going to make, and time is going to tell, right? So as time has gone on, people love the Bob Dylan stuff, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's going to happen with Sturgill Simpson's. Like, obviously, his Sailor's Guide has already come around on people because people love that. It got nominated for a Grammy, which I just, trashed, but it did, for Best Album.
You watch the Grammys?
Yeah, definitely. Every year. Yeah. I never miss it.
I should, but y'all got to fix it. MTV, you too.
You see what I mean? So when it comes to MGK, I think people just really, really, really cannot handle when they love something and then that person stops doing the thing that they want to hear,
Right.
And maybe 15 years from now, people will sit and say, wow, one of the best punk pop albums of all time is by this guy. But for now, they're not going to do it because they just want him to be hip hop.
Right. And
just like they wanted Bob Dylan to be folk, just like they want Sturgill Simpson to be like Americana only. You know what I mean?
But so I got 2 questions. The first one is following up on this. Was the same reaction there whenever Garth wasn't Garth for an album?
Yes. Oh man, they hated Chris Gaines. Are you kidding me? That basically ran him out of the business. Think about it. He made 1 album after that, and then he retired.
Like, why? I mean, it's like, I understand, like, maybe there's a point in your career where you have to kind of rejuvenate things and pull it together.
Well, you got to remember
but you look like Bully McGuire.
you got to remember though, the Chris Gaines thing was a publicity stunt to launch a movie that never came out.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he was playing a character in a movie. This was sort of around the time where movies like Hope Floats and, you know,
That's a good movie.
he wanted to have his own Pure Country the way George Strait had, you know, George Strait had Pure Country, and that album was a massive hit. And the movie, although terrible, was a massive hit. So he was trying to come out with like Chris Gaines or whatever, and they were going to release that album as a major promotional item for this movie, and then the movie never came out. Yeah.
Now you know.
Fun fact,
Ching.
though, that is his highest. His single on his Chris Gaines album is his highest charting Billboard song.
Over Friends in Low Places.
Yeah, on the Hot 100. Yep, it's his highest charting song.
Wow, that's
because
nuts.
they discriminate against certain genres. That's one reason why. But
like, was he considered pop? Like, what was he?
yeah, it was a pop song.
Wow.
And they released it as Chris Gaines and not Garth Brooks. Yep.
Wow.
But yes, I mean, the vitriol over that was like insane.
He got battered for it.
Oh,
Badgered,
brutalized.
Bammered, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Battered. I don't know.
Yeah.
He definitely got battered and bruised over that. But yeah, going into my second question, and I want to ask you this.
Okay.
These two have been hit by a specific community multiple times, and well, no, one hasn't. The other has been canceled in terms of it.
Okay.
The topic is very peculiar and very iffy.
I love it. Let's get canceled.
What's your view on the cancel culture attack of Eminem and Iggy Azalea for appropriating black culture?
Oh, I think it's stupid. It's the same thing they did with Bruno Mars. Like, so okay. So cultural appropriation is a odd topic for me because it's hard for me to narrow that down because I don't have any culture to appropriate. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, more something I would ask you, honestly. But when just because Eminem is a rapper, I mean, think about what he raps about. He raps about being a poor white guy in a trailer park in Detroit. You know what I mean? Or at least that was the beginning of his career. That's what made him who he was. Iggy Azalea, I mean, honestly, I can actually get down with that because she is a very, very, very white Australian, and
I thought she was Latino.
Yeah, she's Australian, dude. You see what I'm saying? Eminem doesn't try to be black. Eminem doesn't pretend to be Dr. Dre. He doesn't blackface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He raps about being a poor, like, white trash, honestly. Because seriously, and people don't want to hear this, but inner city black neighborhoods are no different in terms of, you know, economic opportunity as like rural meth opioid America, white America either. You know what I mean? They're all the same, right?
Yeah.
They're all zoned by the government for like, hey, you white trashy people, you live over here, and you know, the blacks, you live over here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's different in a way, but it's similar as well. I mean, you know what I'm saying. So, but that's what he raps about. So it's not cultural appropriation. Now, her is different. You know, she tries to be something that she's not. She basically said, you know, I'm gonna dress up like you said, you didn't even know what she was, right? So I think there is an argument there, very similar to a blackface type argument. Whereas if you are not something, don't try and be that, right? But there's nothing wrong with Alan Stone being an R&B singer that sounds exactly like James Brown at times, right?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with Bruno Mars being, what is he, Dominican or Puerto Rican or something like that?
He's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Nothing wrong with him doing that and stylizing Michael Jackson and different things, disco.
Yeah, it's like, why can't he attack, why can't he grasp Motown? It's like,
yeah.
I mean, why?
Yeah, and then and the other thing too is you also look at the people around him, right? So when I think of cultural appropriation, it's almost like were we asking for this? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Were we asking for this? So This is a guy that hangs out with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and very, very, grew up in the inner cities of this area, and they've got no problem with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why should I?
Exactly.
To be honest, man, and this is just a comment that would get me in trouble in a lot of places, but 99% of this issue isn't even like it isn't even black people getting mad about it. It's white guilt. It's white people who are like getting that want to be like apologetic to other cultures and they get mad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but I'm going to bring this up as an example. But like the word Latinx, dude, how many times on Reddit and different forums do you see Hispanics be like, dude, I hate the term Latinx. It's not real. 99% of the people who use that are just white people who, you see what I'm saying? That's what it is.
I've never heard it. What?
Oh, yeah, dude. Look that up, man. 99% of the people that use Latinx instead of Latina and Latino are just white people trying to like pander and adhere to like 0.1% of the world. You know what I mean? You see, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, and I'll turn it around on you. Do you get upset about that kind of thing in terms of people like, do you not like it when guys like Mayer Hawthorne exist to sound, to sort of have a funny take on blues and R&B and sound almost exactly like all the other black artists and basically base his career off of Sam Cooke, but he's a super white guy? Is that like a big deal?
No. Like to me, like, I mean, every artist has their shtick, hands down. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong. It's like if I were to say that was wrong, then I would not have 5 Hall & Oates vinyls right here behind me. Because you cannot tell me that those two did not channel soul and R&B like it did. But there was nothing wrong with those guys.
Yeah. Well,
and nobody knew that Daryl was under the wing of the Temptations.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Nobody knew.
They actually took this white guy in and was like, hey, let me show you how to do music. Of course, that's how he's going to do it. You know what I mean? So yeah. we talked to, we had that interview with Mark Rogers. I mean, he spent all that time with little Jimmy Dickens or whatever. I mean, if he would have spent all that time with, I don't know, Chuck Berry, his career might have been different. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as a person, different types of music will speak to you in different ways, and whatever way that resonates with you, that's the music that speaks to your soul, and that's what you do. There's no issue for me with a white person doing rap, blues, soul, or anything else like that. A lot of people give Elvis a lot of slack for him, but personally, like it never bothered me. The one that never bothered me, he didn't give enough credit to Big Mama. We talked about that already.
But it kind of wasn't his fault. But that kind of wasn't his fault. I mean, you can blame. Yeah. You can. I mean, let's take Elvis for example. So Elvis loved that African American church
spoke to him.
Style, right? And that's what he wanted to make. And Colonel Parker sold that as listen to my white boy that sounds like and there is something to be said about how he basically was like he appealed to a lot of racist America, right? Where it's hey, you don't want to listen to all these blacks making this music, so here's my white guy making the same music that you don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, we'll actually bring that in our house because it's a white guy doing it. You know what I mean? But that wasn't Elvis doing that. That was Colonel Parker doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, yes, I do think there would be an issue with, let's say there was a white guy doing like reggae stuff, and he just like dressed up like Bob Marley all the time, and wanted to be called something that isn't even remotely, you know what I mean?
Why Rasta, man?
I mean, and honestly, to me, I wouldn't care because I don't get offended by literally anything. In fact, I find most things funny. But I could even understand why you would say, hey, man, you're from like Lawrence, Kansas. Why do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, though?
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're from Lawrence,
Yeah,
Kansas,
dude,
and
your name is David.
your name's David, and you said you listened to Tank?
Yeah, I know.
What?
So yeah, I, the, so I could see that. You know what I mean? So on the Iggy Azalea thing, I sort of understand where there is some outrage.
Did it seem like she tries too hard?
Yeah, I think she plays up something. You know what I mean? Like she
Yeah.
really does appropriate something. She takes a culture that she is not, and she tries to sell herself as that culture, rather than a. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's what I've been trying to say this whole time.
I think the difference is being the culture that you are heavily influenced of and part of, which Eminem.
Right.
But when you get Iggy, it's just like,
but Eminem,
I'm gonna give it a shot.
But Eminem literally does not even try to be black. He just raps.
He doesn't.
Yeah. Like he doesn't feed off of, and again, same with the Elvis debate. You know, why is Eminem really popular? There is an argument to be made that, you know, a lot of white kids didn't bring the black music into their house, but then when it was Eminem, they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's
Eminem, Fred Durst, ICP.
So there's no reason to think that that's not true. But I mean, now we're going down the rabbit hole of, oh, if your skin is a certain color, you literally can't do X, Y, Z, which is dumb.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's like saying, and I know there's a lot of, and I'm only saying this because I'm half. There's a lot of white people out there that like Cowboy Troy.
Yeah.
So don't sit around here and tell me that you don't jam out the crick in my neck or playing chicken with the train. And a lot of you used to hate Hootie. Well, you loved Hootie, and then you hate Darius Rucker, but now you love him again.
Yeah. And that
it's like
all that's true, man.
Yeah, anybody can do what they want in terms of music. There's no rule, there's no law, none of that.
I mean, at the end of the day, this idea that only certain people can be racist is really dumb, and it's even more prevalent now. You know what I mean? I mean, what? I mean, you can be. I mean, being a racist just means you don't like people of a certain race. And so if you hate white people, I mean, right, you're racist. You know what I mean? If you hate black people, you're a racist. If you know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, that's all it is. I mean, I know other people have different definitions of it. There are people that think that you're inherently racist, whatever. You know what I mean? Fine. I'm just saying, if you hate somebody because of the color of their skin, I don't care what type of way you want to define it. Like, you are hating someone because of the color of your skin. Think about how dumb that is. You know what I mean? It's stupid. But I do
it's like, I hate you because you got a freckle.
Right. I do understand why people get upset about people utilizing like whatever their power is to minimize a culture, or maybe make what they would consider
a step ahead.
Yeah, making fun of it or whatever. Like I am, again, I'm not the kind of person who gets all up in arms over Redskins, right? But okay, there are people who are. So who cares? And you know what? Washington football team was funnier.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna call them the commies?
Why are they the Commanders anyway? They
Let's
should have
go
just been
commies.
the football team.
Really?
They should have just been the football team. That would have been funnier. But
the Washington football team. Let's go.
But you know what I mean. There was the argument of like, oh well, only like 15% of people polled even think Redskins is racist and or blah blah blah. But it's like, are we seriously gonna die on that hill? Who cares? You know what I mean? But I do think that there's something. So I do think there are some things worth fighting for, even if you find them kind of dumb. And on the flip side, I think there are things that you just let go. Like Eminem can be a rapper. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Somebody can, yeah. And it's like, and jokingly, Nick Cannon said it about Lil Dicky. You know, he said the same thing about him.
Right.
But it's just like I just don't see and I don't understand why. Maybe it's just because the world of social media
It
or
is, yeah.
something, but I don't understand why if it's such an instantaneous
Yeah.
feeling, like just right then and there to just saying, okay, I don't like this, let's
Well, I mean,
cancel
if
it.
you look at a lot of polls, I mean, people generally believe that racism and all that kind of stuff was at an all-time low in the 90s and it's ramped back up. You're telling me that that's not because of social media and people making comments and stuff, but then also people using that word so often. I mean,
Hiding behind a keyboard.
yeah, exactly. And again, I mean, there's definitely racism. That is a thing, you know? And honestly,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it always will be. Unfortunately, it just will.
Yep, it's never
Yeah,
gonna
it's
go away.
from the history of all of kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have hated each other.
Mean
Yeah,
mugging. Ugh.
right. And
Yeah,
a thousand
it's
years ago, it wasn't based on skin color; it was based on something else. But now it is. You know what I mean? We're gonna find a way to hate
yeah.
each other, regardless.
It's like I'm a king, you're a peasant.
Yeah,
Shun.
I mean,
So
people were
it's
enslaved thousands of years ago just because they lived across the street. You know what I mean? It's and
yeah.
that doesn't make anything any more right, but we do throw out words like racism and misogyny and
Mm-hmm.
homophobia and that kind of stuff probably too often. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but to me I think it diminishes when it really happens. When everything is racism and everything is misogyny. Like, I mean,
It's like you're beating a dead horse nowadays with it. It's just like
but it's even worse, man. I mean, cancel culture is even worse now because you can't even have a conflicting opinion.
you can't express your two
No.
cents.
I mean, I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody said you can always tell who's a conservative in media because they don't talk. Yeah, they don't give their opinions, because they can't, and whether or not you
Yeah.
think that's right or not, whatever. I mean, but it's sort of like the Aaron Rodgers thing. Everybody's getting all mad at him because, well, I listen to Joe Rogan or whatever, and it's like, who? So what? I, Aaron Rodgers literally doesn't affect you at all, and
Yeah.
I love music and movies and doing all the fun things or whatever, but I'll be honest, man,
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why people believe that there is such hero worship. You know what I mean? That whatever they say, I don't. Yeah,
Goes.
like I might be.
Or is the law
Yeah,
of the
I might be a
land?
fan of Aaron Rodgers, but if I'm taking my medical advice from him, like I'm the moron. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But only if he has that advice. If his advice is get vaccinated, now he's all of a sudden a PhD. you know that
Right.
you see what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence you are on. That is my point. My point is like Aaron Rodgers says get vaccinated. That's just as good a medical advice as like suck down ivermectin, in my opinion, because he's not a doctor. So
Yeah.
why are we getting mad about that kind of stuff? Now, if Aaron Rodgers came out and said like, I would never marry a black woman because I hate black people, I mean, that's a different thing. But he didn't do that. And in
Yeah.
music, I really think it's the same way. And I know you were kind of going a little bit on a different direction than that. Um, but
Oh no. It's open
I
topic.
think that cancel culture at times is fine. I think we should totally throw people in the trash that sort of deserve to be. But at the same time, and maybe this is a nostalgia thing, but I've thought about that. I've thought about like Bill Cosby, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I love The Cosby Show. I still love The Cosby Show. I think if you watch The Cosby Show today, you know, but I think about it how people will say, well, now your kids aren't going to grow up with it and they're better off. because of that, because he was such a monster. But then I think about how, but that show was super funny and it's really wholesome. And even now it's funny. And my kid is not really going to know who Bill Cosby is because Bill Cosby will be dead by the time my kid gets old enough. So should it be the case that we should just encase the Cosby Show and still be cool with that? Or should we trash it? And that's what I struggle with. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, some people would say the same thing about Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? So
yes. Yeah, that's kind of that's rough waters because I mean, there was never a surefire set of proof, but multiple parents did come forth saying that they put their kids up to stuff like that just for money. Let's not do
Michael Jackson. Let's R. Kelly.
That's different.
No, but I'm saying comparing like Cosby and R. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
because we can do the MJ debate all we want, but I mean, these are two people that are like legitimately did what they were accused of, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but the Cosby Show is still such a great show.
Yeah, and it's like there's like I see in DJ groups all the time. It's like just because like that happened with R. Kelly, are you still gonna play? You know, like I Believe I Can Fly or like Ignition. Are you still gonna play his songs? A lot of guys will argue, I mean, what he did is messed up, and obviously you don't support it, but this dude has written millions of, like, not millions, multiple songs. He was an amazing songwriter, hands down, no matter what he did. So it's just like...
Yeah.
It's like, I love his music, but I don't support it. I don't support what he did.
I mean,
So it's like, what do you say to not get slack or flack and lose it?
Why? Hey, think about this. There's a reason why right now the biggest comedian in the world is Dave Chappelle. Because Dave Chappelle has basically said, I don't care, try. You know what I mean? Now, not everybody...
And he still got the money.
Not everybody gets to do that. But...
Nope.
It's just one of those... It's one of those things that I do struggle with. Because I look at like on that R. Kelly... It's hard to not still just bop to Bump and Grind.
I know
and in my mind,
I don't see nothing wrong with Bump and Grind.
I don't do that now. But on the same hand, I can totally understand why you wouldn't necessarily think Trapped in the Closet is funny anymore.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Not anymore. Like I can't. Like honestly, I thought about that not too long ago. It's just like, okay, like this is like a funny. I was like, this is really kind of messed up. But then after all this stuff with him, I'm just like...
No, Trapped in the Closet is hilarious because it is so dumb.
Is this real life, though?
Yeah. Yeah, true. So, yeah.
But yeah.
I mean...
And I look... You remember when Weird Al did it, too?
Oh, yeah.
And I look at him.
What's them spatula gonna do against those guns?
Oh, I can't wait for that Weird Al biopic, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go see how Daniel Radcliffe does.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's just like, man, it's to a point where I feel like, you know, something needs to be done to stop this possible habit. But there's a lot of times where the level might not be so detrimental in ruining somebody's life or career. Unless they are literally like R. Kelly.
To your point,
you're guilty of something.
To your point, exactly. To your point about like MGK and sort of people are trying to like cancel what he's doing now. So these things are correlated, right? So that's different than what we're talking about, but it's the same in the sense that people have gotten to the point now where they're like, oh, if we can make something stop, then it'll just go away. Or whatever, or we can shove it out the door and
power of the people.
Yeah, and so because of that, there is this idea of I will find a way to throw you in the trash, right? For no reason.
Yeah.
And the Bill Cosby and the R. Kelly and all that other stuff. I mean, these are people that actually did terrible things. You know what I mean? Other people, they like had an opinion that was different than yours.
Okay. Or made a possibly non-educated kind of suck-up comment 10, 20 years ago, and
Oh, don't get me started.
That person has changed.
It's so
just
dumb.
like
There are things that I said when we were in high school that I, as a 32-year-old, I look at myself and I don't go, oh man, I was such a bad person. I'm like, nah, I was a moron. What an idiot I was.
wet
Is
behind the
there
ears.
one person on this planet? I mean, and well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there are, but how many people do you think you know that have the same sense of humor and are basically have the same opinions that they did when they were 17 years old? Or let's not even do that 10 years ago, right?
My humor is there, but my opinions are completely different.
Okay, yeah, I mean, obviously,
But
I
there
still
are-
think Superbad is a funny movie, you know? So, I mean, okay,
Role models is too.
right.
Yeah. It.
But you're different now
that's-
than you were 10 years ago, and you are definitely different now than you were 20 years ago, right?
Oh, 100%.
Exactly. And you will be too
100%.
when you're 40.
Yes.
So the idea that someone had a tweet or whatever is so, it's just,
It's ignorant.
bewilders the mind, right?
Yeah. It's blasphemy. Taking the page out of the Stephen A. book. It's blasphemous. Like, I get it. It's like there's a certain area where it's like it's okay to look out for people. But the thing about it is, people think they're looking out for people when they're doing more harm than they are good. And I personally kind of feel like that's what's going on with all of this. It's like, oh, I'm going to show my support, but then you look at the tweets and it's like you're badgering the witness. It's just like,
I mean, it's like what you said.
don't go about it a
It's
different
like
way.
what you said before. It's just all these people behind their keyboards, and they have this sense of entitlement. Like, I can, therefore I am. Because we're closer to these celebrities and people than we ever have been. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is all Twitter is a mass text message. So if you have Twitter and you're following a celebrity and a celebrity says something, you're getting their mass text message sent directly to you. So you have a feeling of that entitlement. And especially if you get into some type of, chain in which they're responding. And now, I'm literally talking to, Bruno Mars, whoever, right?
Right.
People didn't talk to Elvis. People didn't have conversations with Johnny Cash. You know what I mean? Not if he didn't want them to. But now, it's the same reason why LeBron James is so much more scrutinized at times than like Michael Jordan.
I'm scrutinizing him right now.
Yeah. I think it was Bill Simmons. Yeah, Bill Simmons. I want to say it was yesterday or today. In the real timestamp, I don't know when this is going to come out, but yesterday of today, which is April 11 when we're recording, he said the cool thing about Tiger Woods is that he's still sort of a mystery. He's one of the last athletes that's a mystery. Like Michael Jordan was a mystery. There's one of the reasons why The Last Dance is so cool is he's such a mysterious figure. He retired for those 2 years, and there's all this weird mystery. There's no mystery with LeBron. There's no mystery with guys these days. There's none. Absolutely everything about them in every single minute of their lives. You know what I mean?
You're going to know the next step they're going to take too as well.
Yeah. There is no like mystical thing about them anymore. And I think that goes back to sort of tie in what we originally talked about the Oscars and the Grammys and stuff. There's just I think there's still celebrity worship, but the mysticism around it and the mystery and the
surprise element's gone.
The kind of awe and surprise. Yeah, it's just gone. No one cares anymore.
Right. It's like, and I've been saying this lately with the WWE and stuff like that. Like I watched WrestleMania mainly because I wanted to see what McAfee was going to do, and Steve Austin was back.
You don't have to apologize for watching WrestleMania.
So, well, no, I've not watched wrestling's like consistently since I was like maybe 16, because that was when the Attitude Era fell off, and all they really had was Edge, Christian, John Cena, and Chris Jericho, and sometimes Kurt Angle.
Right.
And it was just everybody
We're
else.
all into it
But
back
it's,
then.
oh, dude, I was DDTing people on trampolines, dude, like Suplex City all day. But it's, see, and now I'm sidetracked. But none of it just makes sense. None of it makes sense to me. It's like, why get rid of that surprise element, which is what your business is built on? It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know who's going to make a surprise appearance.
Right.
Give me let me know what's on the card, but don't tell me who's going to come back and have a moment or have like a special appearance. I want to hear that pop.
Yep.
Or I want to hear, on the album, I want to see whose name is there when it drops. Right. Like some features are okay. It's just like, you don't have to let every feature know. I mean, it's like Drake, for instance, with Way Too Sexy. He told nobody that his initial plan was to sample Right Said Fred's was it Right Said Fred? Yeah. I'm too sexy, which he loved, by the way. He didn't know, and when he heard it, he had no issue about it.
Right.
He said, I think it's amazing that my music is influencing this and is moving on.
Right.
He loved it. But it's just like, back to the surprise element, it's like that surprise element is gone. It's like, when you picked up a CD, like you were just like, oh my God, I'm putting this in my Walkman.
Well, I mean, it's worse in movies now. I mean, the new Doctor Strange is coming out, and I feel like I've seen it already. You know what I mean?
It's like Marvel's in it.
Yeah, I mean, think about
there's 5 of him.
I hate it, but it's like, how much better would this Spider-Man movie have been had there just not been any internet? Because even though when the scene happens, and it like, wow, it was still really cool, but I kind of knew it was happening. You know what I mean? I didn't know because I did avoid spoilers, but it was less impactful because people just kept talking about it. Talking like, I saw Andrew Garfield on the set. I saw them, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Why? Why do we want to know?
Right.
Why do you want to know? Let's just watch the movie. You know what I mean?
It's like, it's like no spoilers, and then somebody posts, and it's like, well, it's like, I can post what I want. I can say what I want. It's like, nobody knows nobody knows that when they're scrolling down their feed that they're going to see a spoiler.
Yeah, or they're like, oh man, I was watching the trailer and I paused it at this very, very, very moment, and in this very one frame of the trailer, you can see the cape of this new character, and that means they're clearly going to be in the movie. You know what I mean? Why? Just watch it.
It's like whenever that clip from the trailer No Way Home came out, whenever you see Reptile's head go,
yeah,
and like everybody knew it. It's like, well, somebody's not in the video.
So to bring this around, I think part of the issue is, and to tie this all in together and to sort of bring it back around to your MGK initial thing, the same way with the movies and stuff, people. When a movie comes out and it's exactly what they want it to be, that was good. And if it's not what they wanted it to be, trash, right?
Terrible.
When MGK
trash,
comes out with a movie
destroy.
Or with an album that is exactly what people want, but if they don't, trash. And it's the same way with, and then we're too much into people's personal lives, right?
Revival.
Yeah, we're and you can think something sucks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Or you can think something's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're way too into people's personal lives that we're trying to cancel them for
petty things.
Maybe he didn't vote for Joe Biden, conservative, or liberal, so we're canceling.
You didn't fill in the sheet right, cancel him.
We're canceling people over politics, which is dumb. No one cares. And we're refusing to let people be who they are because it's not exactly what we wanted. And I'll bring it back to, and a couple of friends of mine, I've talked about this before. People are always like, the movie is never better than the book, right? Well, that's because when you read a book, number one, it's more descriptive. Books are just, written in a different way than a movie. But a movie is never what you pictured the book. That feeling you had when you read Harry Potter for the first time, and that world that you shaped in your mind, and then it's on the screen and it's someone else's world and it's someone else's mind. Of course it's not going to be better, you know, because it's not what you wanted.
Yeah, it's not what you envisioned. It's not what your imagination was coming up with. It's like I hear that with people talking about Reacher. It's like whenever they hear the books and it's like Alan didn't play it, but then you hear other people. It's like Alan Richardson played Reacher, Jack Reacher, perfect.
Yeah, well, and then I mean to keep it on the same subject, I mean there's real criticisms as to why Tom Cruise was not cast well. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean obviously there is criticism sometime, but to your point with the way they're doing that TV show, it's like I don't know. So, anyways. To me, if you want my overall opinion on cancel culture, people say it's not real. I think it is real. I think it's also real on both sides. I think people that are right-wing try to cancel left-wing people. Left-wing people try to cancel left-wing people or right-wing people.
Yep.
From a political side, from a non-political, I think, you know, people are trying to cancel people for making music they don't like or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is we have gotten to the point where we are so heavily involved in people's personal lives all the time, all day long, that we have decided that we make decisions in our bedrooms.
Yes. You literally just took that out of my head. I was literally just getting ready to, I was literally getting ready to say, it's like, it's okay to love and care for these people, especially now in a world where we feel, like you said, we're closer to them than we ever have been. So but like you said, don't go to a point where it's just like you do these radical things and like you said, like you're not power of attorney, people. You're not. So it's like, so like say your piece, but don't make it so this is my opinion. Don't make it so harsh and harmful, because a lot of people, they make harsh and brash decisions without even thinking about the consequences before they even go any further. Twitter, aka Twitter. But I like in terms of the cancel thing, I wish people would just step back, think. In terms of music, don't go out and say somebody can and cannot do this, because music was created with everybody. Art was created with everybody, but also everybody's created with free will, stuff like that. You know, stuff's going to happen that you don't like. But if it doesn't physically bother you daily, or does it physically harm your day, like if it keeps you from getting something done during your day, like physically, then maybe speak up on it. But if it doesn't, if it's not physically concerning you, it's like, oh, this person did this. Oh, okay.
But back
to my grind.
I see what you're saying, but that is the argument that people make, is that you see a tweet you don't like and that ruins my day.
That shows me that we've lost grip of what's most important, and that's the bigger picture.
The internet is not reality. Yeah, and that's part of the problem. Yeah.
Yep, that's absolutely.
But
100%.
on a lighter note, because we've gone really long, which is cool because I've been having a good time.
Right, me too.
On a lighter note, to finish this out, so what would you recommend we do to cheer ourselves up?
To cheer ourselves up. Go into, and this is, I'm gonna keep it music related.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking.
Dive into the B-sides. Go back, and if you're our age, and this is probably gonna date us, dive into the cassettes. If you've got the singles, dive into those A-sides, B-sides. Like, dive into the songs that course through your veins during your childhood. You know, which is what a lot of us are doing right now with the punk era coming back. I'm not gonna lie, I'm back in there listening to Green Day like it's nobody's business. So dive into that and do some of that and kind of reconnect with where you once were and who you are. Because me personally, I feel that we're kind of losing the grip of who we are in sense of everything going on. So let's take a step back and kind of reconnect, and hopefully that'll bring you some happiness in your life.
Agreed. Love it. I feature Led
Sorry,
Zeppelin
I gotta
3 today. So if you haven't listened to that,
Oh, you did?
listen to it. So it gets lost in the shuffle that is like Physical Graffiti for their first album.
Mm-hmm.
2 gets a bad rap. It's probably their weakest album outside of their last 2. But 3, everyone forgets 3. So Led Zeppelin 3, listen to it. All right, man. I've had a good time.
Led Zeppelin 3. Dive into the old B-sides of your childhood. You heard it here first. Thank you for joining us. It's great to be back. We've been, like we said, we've been away for a while. It's great to be back. We hope you guys enjoy it. And tune in next time where I think we're going to have some classic rock discussions.
Dope.
So you take it easy. And Bruno's still not popular. Have a good one. Peace.